All right, guys, so let's talk about tears, fake tears, crying. Let's talk about getting into character. Let's talk about Darrell Brooks Jr. No, I don't have a beard. I shaved it off, but it's all about new beginnings. What's up, everyone? Christian Duke, you're watching Sight Sounds Flavors on YouTube, sightsoundsflavors.com. If at any point in time you like the video, smash the like button. Also, please ring the bell for notifications. Press the button down below. Let's subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going live. And finally, don't forget to please leave a comment. And finally, go to everythingelschannel.com and subscribe. So let's talk about fake tears, crocodile tears, crying on command, getting into character. Let's talk about Darrell Brooks Jr. Let's talk about this trial. So a lot of people are torn, like this 7-Eleven straw. They're like torn down the middle. They don't know if Darrell Brooks Jr. was really crying or if he was making himself cry. They don't believe, a lot of people, that he's capable of crying. I think he's capable of crying, but I don't think he was crying because of the victims. I don't think he was crying because of their pain. I don't think he was crying because of any kind of remorse. I don't even think he was crying because he had any empathy for them. You know, when he said there was two sides, that there was suffering on both sides, I do believe that if he thought about his mom, his children, whatever warped love he has for Erica, whatever relationship he's got with Dr. Mary Edwards, podcaster, Detroit activist, author, and celebrated inspirational speaker, visit her website, that, you know, if he kind of conjured up as many sad thoughts about them or losing them or not being able to see them again as he could legitimately cry. But the thing is, he's not crying because of the victims, and he's not crying because of what he did. He's not crying because of any remorse. And that, I think, is a takeaway message. Is he capable of actually crying? Of course, he is a monster because of what he did, but he's still a human. You know, I mean, he still can be sad. He can still be happy, you know. And look, does he miss his mom? Absolutely. When he was crying in court, I have no doubt that those were real tears. I have no doubt that he was really sad. Just like I have no doubt that Dawn is really sad. You know, when she gave these interviews, she was all choked up. She was crying. She was like really worked up. What mother wants to see her child go to prison for 800 years? None. But it's the lack of accountability and the lack of empathy. And we all know that. Like, why beat a dead horse? We all know that. Now, some people have asked, you know, does Dawn have any empathy? I think she does, but it's so warped because, you know, look at the roommate that came out for Darrell. I mean, did she talk a lot about the victims? No, she talked about Darrell. Now, granted, she was there to talk about Darrell, but, you know, your roommate killed 6 people and wounded and injured, you know, 80 and it wreaked havoc on a community. I get you're there to talk about him, but shouldn't you also be talking about the victims? I mean, I'm not trying to lump the roommate in there with Dawn. Dawn, a lot of people believe, should be charged as an accessory after the fact. And I will leave that up to you guys in the comments. Most people, though, on this channel, I can only speak for this channel, and I can also speak for Everything Else channel, which we're close to 1,000 subs. If you haven't subbed, just type in everythingelschannel.com, hit enter, sub. You know, we're like 40 people away from hitting 1,000, but I can speak for the audience there as well, in that most of the audiences of the two channels seem to be on the same page that Dawn was an enabler. A lot of people feel she was an enabler. A lot of people feel that behavior on her part did not stop with the trial. If anything, continued with the trial by sending Darrell the 2 pictures, by going around the media and social media, because there's a lot of people, I don't think it's Dawn, but there's a lot of people that sort of are on Dawn's like orbit on some level, and they're on social media and they're saying that Darrell did not get a fair trial. I think the strongest voice that Darrell did not get a fair trial is his mom, Dawn Woods. And I think that in that sense, she's also an enabler because she refuses to acknowledge the fact that her son is guilty of sin and was incredibly insensitive, almost to the point of just being a monster, but even still, she cannot recognize the error in her son's way. And so for that fact, I do concur that she's an enabler. But with regards to the tears, though, I believe her tears are real. I believe Darrell's were real, but I believe neither one of them were crying tears for the victims or the survivors or their families. And that takes us back to the saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Because you've got to be some kind of a spineless, heartless individual. I mean, you're talking about children, the elderly. Neither one of them showed any, again, it's just one of those things, But the tears, though, I think Darrell Brooks could have been an actor in another life. I think he might have picked up acting during the trial. I think he knew how to cry on command. I don't know what thoughts went through his head. I don't know what he had to do to work himself up to that point. But it looked real. It looked real. A lot of people are torn with whether or not it was real. It was real. It was definitely real. I mean, he welled up. His voice crackled. His breathing changed. I mean, this guy was like a method actor if there ever was one. And I don't know if he learned that while he was incarcerated. I don't know if he learned that from other inmates. I don't know if he learned that over the course of the many, many, many trials that he's had. But he was convincing to a certain extent because people are asking me in DMs on Instagram and X or Twitter, whatever it's called, and messages here and comments here on YouTube, whether or not the crying was real. The crying was real. I believe the crying was real. But I believe he was crying about his family or his children or his fate, but not about the victims, not about the survivors, and certainly not because he regretted what he did. I mean, Sue Whopper, really, she hit the nail on the head. This guy showed more remorse or more, I guess, not passion, but more of a reaction, let's say, to a Reddit post than to what he did in Waukesha, than to what he was accused of. Emotion is the word I was looking for. He showed more emotion for a Reddit post than he did for the crime he committed. I mean, we can't forget the fact that this guy was rolling his eyes, nodding and sighing, mumbling under his breath, while witnesses were recounting seeing their loved ones killed or injured, because he didn't care. But when his mom was up there and his mom was citing a Caged Bird Sings on Zoom, he started crying. That was real. It was interesting, though, there was no tears between him and Dr. Mary Edwards. A lot of people say that that's not his real grandmother. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I would have thought she'd at least shed a tear or, cleared her throat. But, she was honestly on there to do an infomercial, and that's really all she was doing. But she showed some remorse for the family. She showed some empathy for the families. But was that real? I think Dr. Mary Edwards' concern for the families was as real as Darrell Brooks' crying was for the families. I mean, I don't think, I really don't think that she really cared. Just like I don't think he really cared. But I think that he wanted to, try to pull one on the jury, pull one on the media, pull one on the public. And that's probably what that was. But I leave it to you. The tears. Were they real? Were they not? Did he have any remorse? Did he not care? What say you? I will see you Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here. Sight Sound Slurs on YouTube. Get your questions ready. We're going live, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anything and everything goes.